All right, Damian, I just drove a Lamborghini Diablo SV and it was freaking phenomenal. I was driving in the canyons. It felt so incredibly fast. I mean, at 4,000 RPMs, 4,200 RPMs, you know, that variable cam that you told me about starts to kick in, and I'm not sure if that's just me, but it feels like a little mini turbo. But tell me, why is the SV so amazing? I mean, I was driving it, but what is going on here?
What I think makes the SV so badass, especially when it came out, was that when the VTs first came out, it was like, oh, the 91 Diablos are faster because they're two-wheel drive, they're lighter, they're less, no power steering, this and that.
Right.
And then they made the SV, which is...
But the VT, did the VT feel, you've worked on plenty, did it feel heavier and a little slower, or?
The first VTs did, like the 94 VT definitely felt slower than the 91 Diablo.
Okay,
like,
so it felt heavier too?
Yeah, it was heavier, it definitely felt, it just didn't have the same kind of like rip that 91s had. Okay. So then, I mean, from about 96 on, they did have more power because, like I said, they went to variable timing on the cams, so it gave it like a better power
Both cams, curve. Intake, exhaust?
No, it was one cam.
The intake, okay.
Yeah, and then so that was better and helped sort of offset the weight situation that people were complaining about or whatever.
Sure.
But the SV came out, which had the better brakes, power steering, gives you the front lift. So that was like, so you give you some convenience.
Did Lamborghini invent the front lift, by the way?
They're, as far as I know, the first exotics to have it.
Okay, right, and the front like lip, because they're like, all right, too many people were ripping their front lips off, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was killer. I thought it was pretty innovative.
Okay,
you know?
Yeah.
It was 95, 96 when they came out with that, so it was pretty cool.
Okay.
And from then on, every Diablo had one. It wasn't even an option. It was like, you're getting the lift.
Shifting this car, it was the 5-speed, so first to second is a little trickier than first to second on, like, let's say, our newer Murcielago or whatever.
Yeah, it is tricky.
But the, I did notice it shifted a little smoother than a 91 Diablo, and I also noticed the gearing seemed to be very linear. It wasn't, like short first and then long everything else, or vice versa. And it also seemed like 0 to 60, they must have designed it that you're in one gear, because the first gear, I believe, goes to 62. So gear, you're done, there's your 0 to 60.
And I think that's why they got such killer 0 to 60 times. I mean, if
no
I
shift.
remember reading out of, like, I don't know if it was Rotor Track or Motor Trend, they were getting in the high 3s on a 91 Diablo.
Yes.
I'm like, is that real? But if you don't have to switch gears, right?
Right.
But I do think the diff on the SV is geared a little bit differently too.
A little quicker on the off the line?
Yeah, a little quicker off the line.
Okay, so mechanically, let's talk about this SV. So variable cam to bump up, I believe, from 510 horsepower to 530, because I think the SV95 was 510.
Yeah, I mean, I think they said that had something to do with the ram air effect of the hood scoops.
And the variable time.
Yeah, and because I think the variable timing, I think, gives you that boost of over 500 horsepower, but also gives you a little better torque curve.
Sure.
Because I feel like, it's a
torquey feeling car.
Right, and then when the engine sort of explodes right around that 4,000, 5,000 RPM range.
Nothing's stopping it.
Right, that's when
I'm pulling freaking mountains.
You see the cams are there, like, and if in the early cars you'll see it happen, and it feels like 5,000 RPM.
Right.
So I'm guessing they might have gotten a little more, a couple more RPMs lower to bring out the torque and the power to really come alive.
Yeah, it said, I read that supposedly 450 foot-pounds of torque, and I gotta say, it felt like 450 foot-pounds of torque. I mean, it was a torque monster. It was a 5.7 V12.
It has a lot of grunt, man. It has a lot of grunt, right? It's kind of surprising, because you can pull from low RPMs, right? And it's fun, and it doesn't feel
or
like
you can go up the canyons and just stay in third. There's enough range to just, slow or fast, third will give you a full range of torque. Now, you mentioned hood scoops, so let's go back to exterior. The SV has slightly different front lip design than like the 91 Diablo.
Yeah.
I do notice that, and also, of course, the giant stickers. That's probably one of the few cars that can get away with giant stickers.
Yeah, as big as it could get across the whole side of the car.
SV Super Veloce. That's phenomenal. You got to have the stickers.
Look, if anyone's going to be able to walk the walk and then talk the talk, right? That's the car.
Lamborghini. Yeah, that's for sure.
It's pretty badass, so I'll give it to him for that.
I would say that's the difference between Lamborghini and Ferrari. Ferrari is definitely more conservative. They definitely have the racing pedigree, but Lamborghini does not have fear about being over the top.
No, I think that's part of the lure, right? It's part of the whole, it's over the top, in your face, and that's what we do.
Even the color.
Yeah, everything.
It's reddish, pinkish, crazy, depending on the time of day.
It's green, it's yellow, it's orange, it's whatever color you want, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you gotta love it about the car.
Oh, it's one of my favorite things. Now, these hood scoops
love the hood scoops.
are beyond gorgeous. I mean, there's so much intake action going on in the rear. There's like the little one by the window, there's a big one on the side, and then there's the dual. I mean, it looks like gills of a dragon.
Yeah.
So you're cooling and getting air in that engine fast.
When the car's moving, you're getting air. Everything's getting air. The car's staying cool and it's moving. And supposedly, I mean, you could see if you look in the engine compartment how they have the hood scoops go right and down into the intakes.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. I'm assuming that's giving you some more horsepower. I don't know how they dynoed that, but for sure, if you're doing 150 miles an hour, you're gonna have some air pressure coming in your engine.
Yeah.
No doubt. So I mean, it definitely, when we're on the
there is
freeway,
no air restriction. That's for sure.
Yeah, you definitely were pulling me.
Yeah.
You were walking away from me.
I definitely can walk away from the 91 Diablo, and your particular Diablo's timing was changed. You have, your exhaust.
It has more power than a
normal one. It was still like when that torque kicked in, I was still moving.
Yeah, how are you going to get around the variable timing? How are you going to get around the ram air?
I don't think you can. Yeah, and speaking of that, okay, let's back up, or let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're talking about the mechanically, and then we went exterior, but let's go back mechanically. Is the suspension a little stiffer?
The suspension is different. Now, I don't know if it's exactly stiffer. I mean, you have if you see on the dash, you have that little center dial for stiffness.
Right.
So they give you some adjustment to make the car softer or harder. So the shocks are different than the 91s for sure.
Okay, it's a little more tech involved.
Yeah, I don't know how much.
I don't know, but it seemed like stiff as hell, super ultra stiff as hell. Stiff as hell.
Yeah.
Stiff as hell.
Yeah, it definitely was like
freaking stiff, and I couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah, it was.
There's no comfort and no plushness. That's for sure.
It feels very similar to the 91 in that respect. Like, it's just hard. The suspension's hard. Yeah. But what are you gonna do?
I love it. Yeah. I don't want any lean. I mean,
but what's nice about it is over 80, over 100, then the suspension makes sense. Then when you're hitting those bumps in the freeway, it's like boom,
right.
boom.
Right.
And it's weird. I mean, comparing a different car, I'm in my WRX, and at speed, I'm hitting those bumps, and it's like, whoa.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, this car is just, it is tuned for high speed. It's a GT, and it's going fast, and it's tuned that way. So it is hard. I mean, it's going to be super stiff, which it is. Anything under 60 is like.
That makes sense. It really is tuned for high speed. Now, I read, the SV could go, some say 204, some say 208. I don't, 204, 208, anything over 2, wow, you're in business. For 1998, I mean, this was the 90s hypercar.
For sure. I mean, look, 200 miles an hour in the 90s is ridiculous. 200 miles an hour today is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And that car, I mean, I've heard of guys in the 91s, of course, with a little bit of mods, right?
Sure.
A little bit of exhaust situation, but doing 210.
Some mods with some exhausts that we said? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
doing
not
210.
Stock, yeah.
Doing 210.
Yeah, and I mean, we weren't there with the gun or anything, but he did get pulled over, I think, by a plane.
A plane.
Yeah, so he was going pretty fast. He said the Speedo was telling him 210, and I believe it. They were fast. I mean, at that time, they were like
legendary.
Yeah, it was.
Right? All the mystique of the Diablo was like, oh my God.
Yeah, except for maybe a Euro F40. Nothing felt like a Diablo.
Wow. Speaking of which, so you say Euro F40, let's talk about price. SVs seem to be undervalued.
Super undervalued. That is for sure. All the Diablos are ridiculously undervalued I guess it's a matter of time and a judgment,
sure.
Right?
Or right now, I mean, they are starting to blow up.
They are starting to blow up as they should. Like, I feel like Lamborghini in general is a little bit behind Ferrari because maybe they have a little bit more history and all that. But with the Miuras and the Countaches, which the Countaches are a good deal right now, and I don't know how long that's going to last.
Right, because you can still get them under $500,000.
Right, and that's going to be
borrowed time.
Borrowed time. And I think the Diablos are, they're as legendary as the Countach.
But is a Diablo a much better driving machine than a Countach?
Of course.
No comparison, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole different.
So if you're looking at F50s and F40s and you want that same feeling, that same era, an SV I don't, after driving that car, my cup is overfloweth. It has it all.
The SV has it all. I mean, the looks.
Do you think this car will hit over $500,000 all day? I mean, yes. I did see one, a Monterey edition, sell for low mileage listed for $650,000.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
That makes way more sense to me. All those cars come on.
I mean, this car to me blows away an XJ220 twin turbo V6. I haven't driven one, but in terms of just numbers, the XJ220 is very gorgeous, very rare, unbelievable. But the SV, man, there's not that many. I read there's something like under 50, over 30 imported in the US.
I mean,
what do you want?
I've worked on 2 or 3 over the years.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen a lot of them, but they all sort of leave. But there's not that many. I can tell you that.
You count them on one hand, two hands.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's always badass. And now that you think about it, just like with the Mura SV and all that, like it's gonna be ridiculous. Everybody's gonna want one, and for good reason. And I get it.
Now, what's the reliability like? Like, you know, I mean, back then you'd hear, "Oh my God, something can break, it's $1 gazillion." But then, honestly, I have an invoice from a dealer of a E63S engine and tranny or whatever blowing, and it was covered under warranty. But the listing of the retail parts and the repair, it was $94,000. Do you understand? I have evidence. 94 grand. So, what is going to be 94 grand at Diablo? I mean, if the engine blows, what does it cost to rebuild an engine? Not that they blow. I mean, you've seen so many Lamborghini V12s. Are they reliable, the engine itself?
It's been pretty solid, man. I mean, unless they...
Chain driven. Yeah,
it's chain driven, and the early cars had chain tensioner issues.
Okay.
Like the first 91s, most of those have already been changed. So it doesn't even matter.
Okay.
All that got changed on the later models.
Okay.
And so, unless you overheat the car when you're not supposed to, or you don't pay attention to anything, the engines are pretty damn solid.
There's not much there. It's manual, like transmission, clutch, engine.
Yeah, and if you look at the design of the engine, even since the Lamborghini, the 350, it's kind of the same design layout.
Right.
Like I mean, they went from 4 valves to 2 valves, but you'll see like the heads aren't a similar layout. So the way I look at it is that they were just carrying the technology over from year to year, just making it better and better. From the Countach's, right, to getting injected, to becoming the Diablo engine.
Which makes sense why it's more reliable. Anytime like Audi completely changes the engines, like, oh, that's the year where all the manifolds crack and everything explodes.
Yeah, because they don't know, right? Until they put on the road.
Right.
And it's I feel like, I like that just like with the Porsches and all that, like they kept pushing the same technology further and further, so they just kept making more and more reliable. So I'm not gonna say it's the most reliable, it's not a Honda Civic, but it's pretty damn reliable, and if you treat the car right, just make sure
change the oil.
You've got oil in it, and you're not overheating, and I don't know if you're gonna track the car or not, but they're pretty damn.
Some of the parts are hard to get.
Yeah, I mean now as time goes on,
like the fuel level thing.
Yeah, the fuel sender and a few other things where it's like, okay, might not be available. They might make it. That's tough. I mean, the clutch was probably the weak point of the Diablo. But on the later cars, from 96 on, they have a bigger clutch.
So the 98 SV has a bigger clutch.
Yeah, it has a bigger clutch than the early cars, and it has the layout is better, so the slave cylinder, it's a way easier clutch pedal.
Yeah.
It's
very
a beautiful
easy to drive.
Clutch pedal. It's
we had Johnny Lieberman drive it, remember it?
Yes.
And he said, wow, what a comfortable, amazing, easy driving machine. And I think he made a comment like, forget what they said. And it's like, I don't know what what do you mean forget what they said? What were they basing it off, the 91?
Yeah, they're definitely talking about the early cars. If you get a stock early Diablo, what you have is the heaviest clutch you've probably ever felt.
Got it.
On a really tiny clutch disc. So you can't ride that clutch.
No power steering.
No power steering.
No ABS.
And horrible brakes.
Okay, so the whole like, oh my God, Diablo might have came from the first gen.
Yeah, because you're in a car that does 200 miles an hour good luck.
Right. Better than a Countach, but still as raw as a Countach.
Yeah, and it was pretty raw. But then, as power steering really helps, it refines the steering feel.
Now, I'm a tall guy, and I'm comfortable, but I'm not sure if I'm lying to myself, because I'm 6'4", and yeah, for a second I did notice my head is kind of hitting the sill, and the steering wheel is smaller than the 91 because it's power steering, so it can be smaller, so my knees fit a little bit better. But it's slightly offset. Like they couldn't move it just a half inch. I mean, it's slightly. Is it offset to you? Does it feel offset to you?
I'm so used to it. I don't even know anymore.
I found myself being the same.
Yeah, you get used to it. There is the post that's coming right across your head, but again, it's kind of like. Now I know where my head goes. It just fits that little slot.
Yeah, like I said, for a second I'm like, hey, this is weird. My knee is a little, but then I forget all about that because the driving experience is so incredibly glorious.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about that, you're crazy.
Yeah, look, at least from the Countach, you get full windows.
Right.
And you get really, the visibility is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like you have a gnarly blind spot.
That's panorama.
Yeah, but you can see. You get good visuals on the car. You can actually back it up once you get used to the size of it, which isn't as big as people think either. It looks so huge because it has such a low roof line and so wide, but the newer cars are wider.
Newer cars are wider, and recently I parked it next to a McLaren and a GT2 RS, and I noticed, and your Diablo pulled up too, and I noticed that the Diablos have the lowest hood or roof line.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah,
or at least compared to these modern supercars, hypercars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Porsche's looks like an SUV comparative.
Look, they had to put comfortable seats in there and give you a headspace, and the Diablo's got nothing, right? You're sitting, it's the chair and floor. And,
the chair is not even like separate pieces. It's like an L that you kind of adjust.
Yeah,
right?
it's like one piece. One piece. Yeah, there's no back.
Yeah. Racing, very racing.
Yeah, which. For me, for my body, actually was not bad. Pretty comfortable.
I just adjusted because I fell in love with the car. I don't really know, but I don't care. I want one all day.
Yeah, I think it's a easier fit than a Countach, for sure.
Yeah.
But there's some things about it, like the pedals are kind of tight. You got to get used to that. Yeah. The steering is there, but the experience is so engaging. I don't know, man. When I'm in there and you're just going through it, you didn't give a.
Speaking of your experiences, I mean, you've been repairing freaking Lamborghinis Ferraris since you were in diapers. I mean, your father started Franco's European sports car. He's taught you all the way through and carried the line. What compared to like a 550 Maranello, just in terms of excitement, is the Lamborghini just that much more exciting?
I mean, right. This is going to be a personal question, but
it's a personal question.
Yeah,
I don't want to, I'm not saying Ferrari or Lamborghini what's better,
550s
but
are
just
badass and exciting and in a whole different way. But I feel like the 550, in comparison, is like it's an Italian a muscle car, right? It's a car that you can drive with the rear end. It's comfortable. It's spacious, but it's also, if you don't know what the car is, you don't know what it is. It's very low key. The Diablo, as old as it is, 30 years old, you roll up in the Diablo and you're the center stage. You steal the show. The doors go up. You know what I mean?
Like, we witnessed that multiple times going to Malibu.
The excitement's there. Yeah. And I got to say, running through the canyons, I felt way more exhilarated in the Diablo. Not that I'm going faster, but I like taming the beast.
Yeah.
I was taming the beast. Like
That's true.
The 550 gave me way more confidence and felt more modern in that way, but...
Yeah, because we did drive the 550 in Angeles Crest, and wow, glorious machine. You understand, like, Schumacher must have helped dial in this car, clearly. Fantastic
Unbelievable how well that thing drives.
Unbelievable.
And how modern and how confident. It gives you confidence.
Big brakes, it's got it all.
Yeah, but... Yeah, the Diablo's way more exciting.
The Diablo was by far more exciting. I'm like, I can't believe I'm in it!
1 hour back from the Diablo through the canyons, you're like...
I feel sorry for people that live in Miami and are stuck in Miami and never ventured out of Miami and have a Diablo, or in the Midwest somewhere, because their only turn is the on-ramp or off-ramp. Yeah. Because this car does belong in a canyon. It is amazing.
I have to say, before our adventures driving through the canyons, I wasn't sure. But now that I've got some stick time, some wheel time, man, it's fun.
Yeah.
It really handles, it just, like you said, it just laughs at my skills.
Yes,
like, that's all you've got.
That car has far more capability than our driving skills, for sure.
And you wouldn't think in a car that old, and you kind of feel like, you realize it's wishbone suspension, double wishbone suspension.
6 shocks.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
6 coilovers.
Yeah, it's tuned, man. The suspension,
it's dialed in.
It's not like a modern car where it'll hit like, it can do bumps and do fast. No,
right.
It does fast.
Yeah.
It doesn't do bumps and it doesn't do crappy roads well.
Right.
But man, through the canyons, super exhilarating.
Yeah.
It is,
It's a race car.
and it's just,
It's a race car.
You feel like a man. You feel like a race car driver. You come back with that car, even if you were just making it.
Yes.
You're like, you did something. You felt like you've won.
You've won, you're therapeutic, and you want to keep winning, and you go back to the office and you kick ass to ensure you can have this and more.
Yes. I need more Diablos, all the Diablos.
Was there anything else, Damian, just for the someone looking to purchase a Diablo or an SV, or even the guys that are just dreaming about it, all
the Diablo,
one of the best cars ever?
I think so. I think it'll give you, it's like it kind of gives you that Countach nostalgia with a little bit more modern technology, a little more refinement to it.
Not quite Murcielago, starting getting a little modern, even though this is...
Yeah, still a beast. Still a...
Probably maybe the best iteration. I don't know. I mean, at least,
that's
it has Bluetooth.
It's a whole other conversation.
It's a different car, different conversation.
But I will, like a 640 6-speed is a pretty goddamn amazing vehicle.
Right.
I would love to...
That's like the 1-1.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the unicorn.
Right, but the SV is different. It's still like you said, closer to the Countach, but still...
Yeah, super analog. I mean, it has that...
Super analog.
Yeah, it has the 5-speed, but it's awesome. Right. And it's really rewarding to downshift, right? Like when you match revs in that car, you did your work.
Yeah, the car thanks you for lining up the synchro. It's like, oh, you did good. Let's go crazy now.
Yeah, it gives you that perfect hit right through the turn. It's like I said, you don't have to go that fast to feel like you're going that fast.
Right.
And to get the satisfaction of driving that machine.
I agree. I agree.
I mean, the Diablo's great. So what I would say to anybody who's looking to get into Diablo is you're making the right choice. I think you know what you're getting into. And how are you going to go wrong? It's such a first of all, gorgeous
and
car.
Appreciating asset, not to like turn it into about a money thing, but gorgeous, fun, exhilarating, and only going up in value. What more do you want?
I want more.
More of them.
Yeah, I want more of them. I mean,
I want the VT version.
And we didn't talk about the Roadster, and we didn't talk about the other iterations that it's like, it's all badass, man.
Right. Now, you said, let's go back real quick. We'll just tie this up. The VTs early was a little slow, but they fixed that up. They brought all the variable cams and all the VT got. The VTs still feel fast now after 94?
Yes, yeah. The VTs feel great. And even like a 98, 99 VT feels, I feel like it feels as good as a 91 or as fast.
Great.
Even though the 91's lighter and maybe you could get a little more sideways if you were that.
Yeah, but the SV's even better. It's got all that, but lighter.
And two-wheel drive
no
from
frills.
The factory.
Right.
It's pretty... I mean, I love how
more race car than Damian.
Yeah, they went a little more race car on it, and I love it. And the hood scoops alone are worth the entry fee. I would put that hood scoop on every Diablo.
No question.
Put it on Roadsters. Put it on all.
Yeah, no question. We got to scan those and offer them for sale.
Yeah, it's too good.
Well, Damian, thank you so much for your insight. Cheers to more.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, cheers to more.
Thanks, guys.